Hello, welcome back to Wemblesden Park. Well, it's been 2 weeks today since we got back from our little road trip to Stevenage, and nothing's really changed much on the layout. I got back on the Tuesday, and basically on the Wednesday I opened the garage door and dumped the layout in here, and it's been here ever since. What I really need to do now is to pull out the baseboards and connect all of the wiring back up and make sure everything's ready to run, so I can get to the bottom of the two faults that we did have over that weekend. One of the faults was to do with the CDU not working, and what I'm going to do is basically stick a bigger capacitor on it and just check for loose connections, and that should cure that problem. What I'm going to do is possibly build another CDU for the other end. That will then give me a free CDU on a board, which we can then keep in the spares box for emergency. The other fault, the holding problem we were having on the up fast line, has got me baffled. Essentially, you saw me in the previous video wiring in an extra reed switch, and I just hope that that would actually catch any trains that had missed the reed switch where the points were. I thought it would go across a point and the reed switch would catch it, but obviously it didn't work. We still had issues all the way through the Sunday with it, which, to be honest, really got on your wick after a while. So I really need to look at why this thing isn't triggering. Now, one thought is that I'm using a latching relay. Now, with a latching relay you have two coils, and basically you pulse a 12 volt feed onto one of the coils and the relay switches one way, and then when you pulse the other coil it switches the other way, and it maintains whichever direction it was last switched in when there's no power. So I'm suspecting that the relay might have power going to one of the coils when the train is trying to trigger the other coil, so I need to investigate further, but until I get the layout set up again, I'm not going to know anything about it. But apart from that, everything else seems okay. The layout sustained a little bit of damage coming home. Nothing too major, it can be repaired. I'll take you for a little tour around in a moment and show you to the extent of the damage. Our next show outing will be in May the 9th and 10th. We will be going to Scunthorpe. Not 100% sure of the location yet, so I will post that up in a future video, but I can tell you it's the May bank holiday weekend, which has been moved this year due to the VE celebrations. So the way I understand it, I think the bank holiday is actually now going to be the Friday, which is quite cool for us, because that means we'll be able to travel down on the bank holiday Friday, which means Rachel won't have to take time off work for the journey down. So yeah, so what did we learn? Let's see. Well, we did 450 miles. The layout performed really well, better than to be expected actually. Apart from the two faults that I've mentioned, the layout drew quite a reasonable sort of crowd. We got a lot of positive feedback. The only criticism that we did have was from one member of the public, who just said that the font on some of the displays could do with being a little bit bigger, so that people with eyesight problems would be able to read it. And apart from that, that was it. So if that's the only criticism that's got back to us, then hey, I'm happy with that, you know. I mean, at the end of the day, Wemblesden was built to entertain the public, and I think it did that really well all weekend. We had lots of comments about the Merg system, how it operated the trains automatically, and it just kept running. Just excuse me, I just have to move a second, I've got a cramp in my leg. There we go. Need to get my garage sorted out. That's going to be a long-term plan as well. Is I need to get this workspace sorted out in here again, and bring my workbench and that back down from upstairs in the loft, so I can keep all my model making stuff in one place. The other thing that we found difficult was the evening meals. We did have a walk around Stevenage on the night time. We found a pizza shop We found a chip shop that was shut. Apart from that, you were limited really to the retail park, and the problem we had is we parked the van in the car park, and then it was jammed in with all the other vans because we didn't have intentions of driving around with it all weekend. So we had to rely on you know, 2 legs to get us everywhere. In hindsight, had we had some sort of cooking facilities, we would have been okay self-catering. So with that in mind, I've got to do some work on our camper van in the next 2 months. So I'm going to look at some way of reorganising the back of the van so we can keep the gas bottle with us. Because when we take the layout to the show, all I have to do is literally just unscrew the seats at the front to make space for the layout, but the actual sink and the cooker and everything stays where it is. So really, if we can keep the gas bottle on board, then we will have some kind of cooking facility, so we should be okay. I mean, I can't believe how much money we spent in pizza, to be honest, on a pizza. That was one of the biggest expenses, and of course 2 trips to McDonald's, it soon racks up, and then you get home and you think, blimey, I've spent 60-70 quid on eating out. I mean, it's a bit ridiculous really, like, you know. So we need to watch that, otherwise us going to a show is going to get to the point where it's not viable because we can't afford to go. But anyway, I've waffled enough, so I think what I'll do now is I'm going to cut to show you where the layout is. So excuse me while I just turn the camera around. Okay, let's have a look around the layout. As you can see, I'm standing on the stock box. I better make sure I don't put my foot on that new bridge section. There's just stuff dumped everywhere. I really need to skip in here. There's the lighting rigs. Control panel was dumped over there when we got back. If I just kind of spin the camera around, there's the legs, there's the curtains, nuts and bolts, sound units over there. All of the cables all need plugging back in and everything. If I just kind of spin around this way, I've got to take this baseboard off so I can get access to those 2 baseboards, so I can sort the join up. I think the joint's not that far off, but it needs a couple of screws putting through, so make sure that I can get it all lined up properly so I make it work. If we have a little look around here, this board isn't too bad. Can't really see any damage as such to this baseboard, so that one's not too bad. In all honesty, I think the 2 rear baseboards took the brunt of the damage because they weren't very well protected when they were in the van. As you can see, there's a few bent lampposts. The biggest thing that I was a bit miffed off with is this palisade fence down here. I mean, this was expensive. I mean, when you don't have a job and your income's very limited, 10 quid for a fence is an awful lot of money. And it looked brilliant when I first did it, and unfortunately it got damaged on the way down, and then we went round a roundabout on the A1 coming back up, and this board decided to slide off the top of the other baseboards and wedged itself under one of the overhead lockers and ripped the rest of the fence off. So we're going to have to try and find a way of repairing that on the cheap. Just step down off there, I come round, we've got another bent lamp post. I mean, it should be alright to repair. I mean, this is all loose, so I'll see if I can put some pins or something in there, and I'll probably get round to getting this brick paper on there as well before our next outing. But the actual main boards themselves are okay. The underground sign's a bit bent. This looks like a car's hit it. If it was the other way around, I could just stick a car on it, and that would be a bit of a cameo scene. If we come round this side, missing a horse. That's probably the one that was on the living room floor, and there's a few trees weren't putting up right. I think that Storm Brendan must have come through and wiped the trees out that particular weekend on the layout, as well as round Stevenage itself. So yeah, everything else is a bit battered, but no, we're getting there. We're getting there slowly. The Merc kit's back underneath the layout, out the way. Like I say, it's all got to be wired up. If I just come round this way, everything else is dumped down here. Just a quick butcher's underneath. Camera's not very well, but you can sort of see that the all the cables are sort of just hanging loose at the moment underneath there, or to be powered, plugged back in and powered up. It's just a long process of putting it all back together. It's give me something to do, I suppose. Down here was my workbench. This had a lot of stuff dumped on it before we went to Stevenage, last minute repairs and things, so I just need to get a big bin bag really and chuck a lot of this rubbish out, and then I can bring my chair back down and that. But loads of stuff to be getting on with. Get these bookshelves and that sorted out in there as well. And then it'd be nice to maybe get a backdrop sorted out, so that when I do videos or anything like that, you're not looking at the bare walls. I've picked up a few tips looking at the other YouTube channels out there, and just little things that could improve it. But apart from that, the rest of the layout's kind of looking okay, so that's probably about it. So anyway, I'll turn the camera around. I'll tell you what, it's useful having a mirror over there so I can sort of see the viewfinder. There we go. So anyway, that's it for now. I can just hold the camera still without. There we go. So anyway, this is Dave signing off. Like I say, I will give you the details for Scunthorpe Show probably in the next video when I've had the official paperwork back from the organisers. But yeah, until then, keep modelling. Subscribe to the channel if you like it. There's a bell icon, I think, somewhere up here. If you click that, I think you get your notifications. And if you've got any comments or questions, if you just put them below in the comments section, and I like to answer every single one of them. It's always good to get feedback. I'm just going to try and hold that camera against that building. There we go, because it's shaking slightly. Yeah, it's always good to interact with other modellers. I'd like to say another shout out to Colin. See if I can pronounce this properly. Is it COLCESTER International? If you put, I will put a link in the bottom. You can go and find Colin's channel. Another AC electric modeller, really nice guy. Chatted to him for quite a bit when I met up with him at Stevenage. So like I say, if you want to check his channel out and subscribe to his channel, I'll put the link down below. So anyway, this is me signing off, so see you next time. Cheerio.